Today, we're talking about tips for making money with your laser, how to put that machine you have to work for you. Hey, welcome to the Creative Ramblings podcast. I'm Sarah, and we've got a great topic for you today. If you have a laser and you want to sell some items on the side, or maybe you want to make it your full time gig, we are talking about how to get started. And I've got a special guest here today who has put her laser to work for her. So she's sharing all her tips. Before we get into the meat of today's program, I want to talk about some deals. If you want to skip this part and go right into the topic, you can choose the next chapter. So I've got a couple good deals to share with you today. So this is for the week of February 12th, and Cricut has got some great things going on during the month of February. First off is 50% off materials and accessories. We are seeing this pop up a lot. It's not happening all the time, but we saw it kind of November, December, January, and it's continuing in February. So it's going on right now, definitely through the week and next week. So if you need to stock up on vinyl or transfer tape or paper, whatever you're using for your Cricut, now is a great time to do so. The AutoPress, the Cricut AutoPress, is on sale for just $299. That is $700 off the regular price. And honestly, I think at $299, it puts it right in the same realm as a lot of the HTV Ront heat presses, which are excellent machines. And I think $299 is just a really good price. So if you've been eyeing this up, now is a great time. The other thing I'm going to bring up is a couple of new DTF printers. So a few weeks back, I did a whole episode on DTF. So if you have no idea what I'm talking about, or if you're new to DTF, go check out that episode. I talked about, well, let's start from the very beginning. DTF is direct to film printing. So you print onto film and then you can iron that or press that onto any kind of fabric. And for a long time, that was done on a commercial level with these huge machines. And then we, as crafters, could kind of get those transfers to press onto fabric. And when I did this episode a while back, I really predicted that in 2025, we're going to see DTF come down in price. It's going to be affordable, and you're going to be able to do it in your home, even if you are not a commercial printing company. And we're seeing that happen. Xtool launched a Kickstarter for their new apparel printer, and it actually goes on sale tomorrow. So there's a link down in the description if you want to go check it out. This is still a pretty big machine, but Xtool has made it really accessible and easy to use. So that is going to be really cool to watch what happens with that. The other thing we saw last week was Lockleek, the sister company of HTV Ront, has launched a DTF printer. It is not for sale yet, but there are a ton of details on it on their website. I like that it has a compact footprint. It can fit on your table. It also has some really cool features that we don't see in cheaper DTF printers. So I think you might want to take a look at that one as well. And I'll keep you posted as we come out with pricing and more details on it. And I have a feeling we're going to see more DTF. I just think this is kind of the next big thing in 2025. The final deal I want to tell you about is Creative Fabrica. They are running a February special, 28 Days of Love. If you purchase a membership or renew your membership, you are entered to win a crafting machine. Excuse me. They are giving away everything from heat press to a silhouette to a Cricut, all kinds of different crafting machines. So all you have to do is purchase or renew your membership. If you don't have one, $47 a year, and you have access to all of their fonts and graphics with a commercial license. They also just launched a new AI font generator, which I've been playing around with. I will report back to you on that as soon as I kind of decide what it's like and if it's worth getting the membership for. So today I am talking with Jane from Sustain My Craft Habit. I've known Jane for years, and I am so excited to have her on here today. Sustain My Craft Habit is a channel run by Jane and her sister Sonia. They do it together. They have a love of DIY and are truly creative minds. They share projects from natural, upcycled, handmade crafts to really detailed laser creations. And they also run multiple shops to sell their items. Jane and Sonia own multiple lasers and have been teaching us how to use them for a few years. So we're going to talk with Jane about how to make money with your laser and how to put that machine to work for you. Hi, Jane. Thank you so much for being here today.
Hi, Sarah. I'm so happy to be with you. Thank you for inviting me to your podcast. It's very exciting.
Absolutely. It is. It's so exciting for us to talk. I love this. So, Jane, your brand is Sustain My Craft Habit. And I love that you do this with your sister. I think that is just so cool. It's a nice partnership to have. And you and I have been crafting kind of in the same niche in the same area for years. And it's really cool to connect and be able to talk about some of these passions that we share.
I agree. I know it's nice to put like face and sound to the names that I've seen, and yeah, we've been working together for years, so this is
Yeah.
great.
Absolutely. So why don't you tell me a little bit about kind of yourself, your brand, Sustain My Craft Habit, and like your journey and how you got to where you are today?
For sure. Well, we launched, like you said, with my sister Sonia, Sustain My Craft Habit back in 2015. So we're going on, wow, 10 years now. I can't even believe that. And really, it was to share our passion of crafting. Like we've been lifelong crafters. Sonia, she's always like sewed and is in the textile business in her like career. She just general crafting. I used to love to cross stitch and all sorts of different things. So we thought, well, let's share these projects and ideas. And we really felt strongly at the time and still do around kind of crafting to sustain your creative side. So hence the name Sustain My Craft Habit, but also being a little bit more eco-conscious around what we're crafting with. And so we try to use natural materials or upcycled items, but sometimes the urge just strikes to craft what you want. And over the years, our work has evolved. We've done sort of Cricut crafting, and then that now is also evolved into laser crafting, which I think we'll be speaking about today. But that's kind of the journey with Sustain My Craft Habit. We've also built that over the years, and we can talk more about that into different products that we sell as part of our business. And then on a personal note, I live outside of Toronto, Canada, and I am mom to four little kiddos. I work part-time in healthcare as a researcher. So yeah, there's a lot going on, but
You stay busy. I love it.
yeah, just trying to stay warm these days, honestly.
Oh my gosh. Yes, I agree completely. I'm not too far from you. I'm in Wisconsin, and so it is. It's always chilly. We stay warm in the winter.
Yes, I know. Our fireplace is my favorite place to be right now.
Oh, that sounds wonderful.
Yeah.
So you have a brand. I love that your brand is focused on kind of being sustainable. Because even when we're working with machines like a Cricut or a laser, we can still upcycle products or go to the thrift store and find something that we can add more personalization to. It doesn't always have to be new that we're
Yeah.
crafting with. So that's great. So I know you've crafted with Cricut for a while, and you've been just crafting with your hands for a while too. What made you make that transition from those techniques to lasers?
I think when we started about 3 years ago, the field was pretty new. Like consumer laser machines were becoming more popular. There's the different brands. At the time, I think Glowforge was one of the bigger brands. And then Xtool came along. Now we have We Create. Our experience is mostly with the Xtool brands in terms of the consumer ends. But then there's all sorts of other ones, which I'm sure you've talked about, like Thunder lasers here in Canada are really big. So it was just one of those areas. And I think in terms of our business, our motto is like every year we kind of look to see what's a new facet that we can add on to what we're doing, because really like that diversification is, I think, so important. And I'm happy to talk about the ways that we try to do that. I mean, other people will have the philosophy that you need to niche down and be kind of an expert in a certain area. But that's, I think, hard for crafty people and people who are more creative, because I find myself just wanting to, you don't want to take the joy out of what we do, right?
I,
So,
I agree completely. Yeah, it's hard to just stick with one thing when there's so many other techniques out there.
yeah.
And if we're able to learn something and learn it really well, why not share that with other people, even if it's slightly outside of that, super niche thing that we're doing?
Yeah, exactly. And I think around, yeah, so it would have been about 3 years around this time, we got the opportunity to work with Xtool and try out their machine. At that time was the Xtool M1. which is the 10-watt diode laser. So we're really excited, and kind of that kickstarted our journey. It actually aligned really well with what we were already doing, kind of with the Cricut crafting. We also create patterns and SVG files. It started first, even before Cricut crafting, in our Etsy shop, Sustain My Craft Habit Etsy shop. We have felt patterns, like felt flowers, felt ornaments, and things like that. That we started at first just cutting by hand because we hadn't even learned about Cricut, and then when we learned about Cricut and started doing that, it just opened up more possibilities there. So we had that expertise around building these SVG files that then really translates nicely to the laser crafting, and we can use kind of the same designs and things. And so we've actually leaned in a little bit to that area and built another Etsy shop. We actually have 4 of them now, so we
Oh my
can talk
gosh.
about that because I think there is an area, if you do have different passions, that you want to kind of keep them a little bit niched so people know what to look for. But yeah, we have one that just has graphics shops. And as I said, Sonia sews. So she does sewing patterns and Sustain My Sewing Habit Etsy shop. So that's kind of, like I said, we've been doing this about 10 years now. So we really have tried to build in the things where we see that there's an interest, and then like something that aligns with what we like to do. And that's really the happy place, right? When you have to try to create something that's not really an area of interest, then it becomes work, and it's not
Yeah.
fun.
I think anybody in any field of work, if you can find something you really like and it's a job, like that's fantastic. That's
Yeah,
where we all want to be. And I
exactly.
love that you've been able to take your passions and make 4 Etsy shops. Like that's awesome. Because when you're searching on Etsy, it's by niche, and that probably does very well for you then.
Yeah, it does. And for sure, because you know how the search algorithms work and such.
Hmm.
So we have, yeah, and they've evolved, and some do better than others. Like I
Hmm.
think in terms of the graphics shop, it probably, there's so much competition now, like
There
honestly, like
is.
in terms of, and especially I think with AI, it just becomes so much easier to create these designs.
Hmm.
So we're kind of competing with these really, really big, you know, sites that now have millions of
Oh
things
my
and
gosh,
AI
yes.
generated things. And
Yep.
but even like to go to Xtool, their own platform has more and more designs and things that you can use. So I mean, that's not a big moneymaker for us. I think if we
Hmm.
had started that 5 years ago, it would have been a different story. But
Hmm.
it's still like, it's nice. Again, it's a skill that we've built. We like to maybe draw and design some things, or sometimes you just can't find that thing that you want.
Yeah.
So we can at least kind of create our own, and then we put them in our shop. And we have tricklings of sales through that
Mhm.
shop now. And maybe, and what I do find is what is unique is that we've added more laser focused
Yeah.
designs
Yeah.
versus just general SVGs. And those are really the ones that tend to sell more now, especially kind of the layered SVG files and things like that. It's always
Yeah.
learning. Like, I feel like you just have to try new things and not be
Hmm.
afraid for something to flop. And sometimes it takes a while for things to
Hmm.
go, right? Like, having been in the blogging business, which was our first
Yeah.
part of it, is kind of the foundation for what we do. We've seen a lot of people come and go,
Hmm.
and it's not a like a get quick kind of thing. I think there
No,
are
it's
those
not.
examples of people who do, but it really is that kind of sustained work, and that's why you have to enjoy it. Otherwise, I think, I mean, we burn out sometimes too,
Yeah.
but
Yeah,
um,
yeah, absolutely. I think being able to try something and know that it might fail and being okay with that is what you have to do to keep moving forward.
yeah.
Absolutely. Hmm.
And there's also things like there are products that we've created, both digital and physical, that we sell. Because, I mean, one of the pieces I haven't talked about is we launched a set of craft kits, for example,
Oh, cool.
about 3, 4 years ago. And at first it didn't sell, and then it did. And you find that it's kind of seasonal. So certain
Okay.
designs like take almost 2, 3 years sometimes, all of a sudden they
Yeah.
take off. So if you give up really early, you never kind of see that success, and I think
Hmm.
it's easy to get discouraged. So,
Yeah, and that's so important to remember too, that it does take time, especially when you have anything that's online. It
yeah,
takes some time to build some credibility and for people to find it.
for
Hmm.
sure.
So you said you started out with an M1. That was actually my first X Tool Laser 2, the first time I had an enclosed one, and it was so easy to create with. Do you have other lasers now as well?
We do, and all of our lasers tend to be in the X tool family. So we have
Hmm.
the F1, the P2, and now most recently the M1 Ultra. So
Hmm.
because I work with my sister, she has custody of some of the machines, and I have custody of the other
Yeah,
one.
yeah.
So it's kind of fun. And she lives about 2.5 hours away, so we don't get to kind of see each other very often.
Got it.
But she now has the P2, and we've, evolved her kind of space, her garage space to house the different machines, which I think is really important if you're thinking of using, laser machines in your as a business. I mean, when we started with the M1, I was really excited and made some projects like for ourselves. And then around that time, we had launched our craft kits. And I was like, okay, well, it'd be great to add little embellishments into the kits that people can't find anywhere else, right?
Yep. Yep.
And it worked well, but the capacity for this 10-watt laser, I found myself, it was taking a long time,
Yeah.
and you have to be there with it for safety reasons.
Yep.
And so we quickly kind of outgrew the capability with that machine for our business purposes.
Hmm.
But again, it depends on what you're using it for, right? Like,
Hmm.
I think if it's for engravings, or what am I trying to say? Yeah, like engraving names or designs, those go a lot faster. But we're
They do.
talking about cutting out intricate little shapes, which is what we were trying to do.
Hmm.
I just was like, oh, this is really
Yeah.
taking way too
It
long.
takes a long time. Yeah.
But now, with the P2, which is like a 40-watt CO2 laser,
Hmm.
we are able to just cut things much, much faster. You can also do more things like acrylic, which the diode lasers, the clear acrylics, you can't. So, I mean, but again, this was all learning and kind of
Hmm.
figuring out what people are responding to, what we like to make.
Hmm.
Um, and I think still too, going back to our roots of, like, we like to try new things with like the acrylics, but at the same time, it's not our area. Like, I really like to work with more biodegradable materials or things that are not going to, yeah, just kind of
Yeah.
stick to that.
And that makes sense because there's a huge variety of things you can work with a laser.
Yeah.
But you have to be comfortable with it, and you have to like doing it in order to design it and create it and sell it. There has to be some joy behind that.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah,
So
I
what?
know.
Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, like, one area that we haven't even tried that I want to is like the tumblers, right? And
Oh
engraving
yeah.
those. I think there's such a niche for that, and people are really good at that.
Hmm.
Um, but again, it's just like so many opportunities, I think.
Yeah, and tumblers are fun. I like making tumblers. I've made them for myself. I make them for my kids all the time. But it's a process, and the amount of ruined tumblers I
Yeah.
have because I've tested so many. It's an investment out there to just to get it right. And so, if you don't have to sell tumblers, can you find that material or that product that you're really comfortable with and do that one really well?
Yeah, I see sometimes in the Facebook groups where people are like, I'm just starting lasering. Somebody's asked me to engrave their $70 Stanley. And it's like, well, maybe that's not the place to start. Like, if you've not
Yes.
done any before, how about
Hmm.
testing a little bit? And so I think it's a balance, right? You definitely have to try and be ready to, like you said, fail and have
Hmm.
ruined things.
Yes.
And if you can, but that's how we learn and get
Hmm.
past that. Sometimes there's a bit of a fear of trying something. So if you
Hmm.
have two and that one you can just discard, it's your practice one or the
Hmm.
backside of something. I've done that where it's like,
Hmm.
okay, and it just reduces that expectation and the stress of, oh my gosh, what if it doesn't work? So,
Yeah. Yeah, all really good tips. So that kind of gets into what we wanted to talk about was tips for making money with your laser. I think a lot of people buy a laser, and because of the price point, they're not necessarily just craft and hobby machines. I think a lot of people purchase them and think, I'm going to be able to sell something with these. But they may not have any Etsy experience or any business experience. So we've shared a lot already, but what are some tips that you can share for, I got my M1 or I got my M1 Ultra. Now what? How can I try to recoup some of my investment?
Yeah, I think, the biggest thing is to, when you're starting any business, look at what people need, right? Like, and try to be unique. I think because these machines are much more readily available, when I go to craft shows, inevitably there's one or two stands that have some sort of laser cutting or engraving station. But the things that, so, I mean, just going and seeing what is selling is important. You don't want to copy that, but think about it as if you're the consumer and what draws you in. So I know I was at a craft show last year and there was a stand and they did really niched like ethnic designs for some community. And you could see all this community was gathered around this table because that's something that you can't find everywhere. So if you have something like that, be it a cultural community, be it a sports community, be it like a passion area, craft lovers, just think about that thing that is unique that will draw in an audience. Um,
Such a great tip.
yeah, and for us, we've had a lot of success this last year before the holidays with gifts that were personalized, like personalized cutting boards. And we have a tutorial on Sustain My Craft Habit for how to take recipes, handwritten recipes, and engrave them with the X Tool P2. So I'm happy to
Yep.
share. We're not
Yep.
gatekeeping,
Yeah.
but that was the sales there were, as even though we have that available on our Etsy shop, it was much more successful in the local personal connections and
Hmm.
through the Facebook kind of marketplace.
Hmm.
So really the audience there was people that we knew who are looking for this and thought it was really cool. And so you have to be willing to share your talents and your offerings with those around you. And I know that's hard because it's easy to be shy about it. Sometimes the people that are closest to us are not the most supportive ones,
Yeah.
but which is unfortunately, but that's the way it is. So having a little bit of a tough skin and saying, well, out of all the 100 people that I know, maybe one or two will like what I'm doing and they'll buy something and then they'll let
Yeah.
others know. And that's how, for the first year, like we got our Xtool P2 in the summer
Hmm.
and just through word of mouth, I think we had about $1,400 in
Oh,
sales.
wow. That's really good.
Just with these cutting boards, right? So that's
Hmm.
halfway to paying off the machine. Maybe not halfway, but a part of the
Pretty
way.
close. Yeah.
Right? And we've been making gifts for ourselves and then other products. And the other piece is that like we work, both Sonia works full time at another job. I work part
Hmm.
time. We both have families. So, if you have even more time to invest in it, like I really believe the more time you put into something, the more you get out of it.
Exactly.
So those are, a couple of the tips. And I think that there is a lot of potential. Again, it's not going to be a like get rich quick
No.
scheme,
No.
but listening to what people need and then thinking about, so another area is Sonia designed some really cute ornaments for like, how at Christmas you can buy ornaments like our first home kind of
Huh?
thing,
Mhm.
right? And or baby's first Christmas type of thing.
Mhm.
So we were thinking, okay, these our first home ornaments are adorable, beautiful. Who might be in the market for that? And so we'll be starting to reach out maybe to local real estate agents who at the
Love that.
holidays want to give something unique to their and
Hmm.
personalized to their customers. So just being creative about where the needs are, where the customers are is not always just on Etsy at the end consumer, but it's like, are there businesses who need engraving for their business, right? For their staff and things like that. So there's, I think, a lot of opportunities in those little niches.
There, and I love that you talked about business to business sales
Yeah,
because anybody who lives in a town, like you know people who either own a business or manage a business, or maybe you've gone to a restaurant or you've met that real estate agent. It's not like you have to start an Etsy shop or you have to go to that craft fair. It can
yeah,
just be getting up that courage and going to network and talking with people and letting them know what you do. And
exactly.
yeah, you can
Sending
sell
some
that new
emails,
home.
right?
Hmm.
Directly with some pictures of your products and just let them know when and that's the thing, like when we first started, like I said, with the craft boxes, trying to create for those boxes, and then finding that it was taking a lot longer than I wanted to spend to cut them out. This was before we got our other machines. I actually went looking into my community. Does anybody else offer this service? And so I ended up paying somebody else with their laser machine to cut them until we
Oh,
had that capability. So that's the thing, like even just how
yeah.
did I find them? I don't even remember. Maybe through Facebook, local searches.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you have community groups, you can say, like, I know for me, I have a neighborhood group,
Hmm.
and every Wednesday they let you share your business, so you can go in
Oh.
there. So I think there's those mom groups. Like, there's a lot of the
Hmm.
avenues that way that, yes, you don't have to start an Etsy shop and worry about shipping and taxes and all
Hmm.
that stuff, but sell to your local community.
Yeah, and word of mouth is so powerful, like you said, with your
Mhm.
first year with your P2, and if you can start there, that's a fantastic place to start. Hmm.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, what you had mentioned a little bit about the projects that you like making. What materials do you prefer to work with your laser?
Yeah, for sure. I think wood, like,
Hmm.
probably 80%, 90% of our projects are with wood, either the, like, I think it's the birch wood or basswood
Yeah.
you can find. Sourcing the materials, do you struggle with this? Like, I struggle with finding.
I do. I think that's one thing with lasers is it's not the same materials as Cricut. And so it's this new
Yes.
market, and I don't necessarily just want to buy the first thing I see on Amazon.
Yeah.
We're seeing retailers pop up. Like there's one called Houston Acrylic that
Hmm.
they do a lot of acrylic, but they also do all different kinds of wood with patterns printed on them. And that's a small business that just started not
Yeah.
too long ago. But it takes a lot to source your
Yeah,
materials.
especially, and we're in Canada too, so it's
Hmm.
like expensive cross-border shipping. I
Yeah.
mean, I do really like the X Tool materials. I
Yeah.
find that they're really good quality, but a little bit expensive when you kind of are adding things together. We've
Hmm.
tried going to our local, like, Home Depot to see, okay, can you find materials there?
Hmm.
Again, it's a bit of a logistics thing, right? Because they come in like the big 4x8.
Yeah.
So do they cut them there? Do you have to have a truck to bring them home? And then it's not always
Yep.
consistent quality. So yeah, this is probably a pain point in our own journey that we're still
Hmm.
trying to kind of figure out.
Hmm.
But I know, for the cutting boards, for instance, we want to use my sister sourced really nice, is it acai, boards, right?
Yeah.
Acai
Yeah.
wood boards.
Hmm.
So not like a really nice quality, which I think is, and then we sell it in a little bit higher price point. So it's more of a premium product.
Hmm.
Not always having the cheapest thing is the best thing, right?
Yeah. Because if people are going to invest in a nice
Yeah.
personalized gift, they don't want the cheapest thing out there.
I
They
want the
want the
dollar
good
store.
quality.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
I have
So
found too that the laser Facebook groups, like there's an M1 group, there's a P2
yes.
group, really good community for talking about, hey, where do you get your products from? And
Yeah.
sometimes they'll share really niche resources. Or if somebody did find something on Amazon that was a good quality, they're willing to share that with you so you can weed through some of the bad ones.
Yes, absolutely. And then some things work. I know that there's a lot of frustration sometimes I see with people who say, like, I this used to work and it doesn't work anymore, but you have to remember, like, each batch of product can be different. So again, needing to test that and not expect them to always be the same or give up.
Yeah. Testing is huge with lasers. The amount of like I have just a bin of test products that I've done that I can't like bring myself to get rid of because maybe I'll do something
Mhm.
with them, but it makes my final products come out so much better if you just test and test and test.
What are your favorite things to make?
Oh goodness. I really like working with acrylic. I have a P2 as well. It's a CO2 laser. I just love how it cuts. I find myself a little bit more drawn to wood because I think it's
Mhm.
more versatile.
Yes.
Just the things you can do, the engraving looks beautiful. Um, I do tumblers, but I do them for myself because they make me nervous to do tumblers sometimes. I'm like, what if it's spinning and it falls or it moves? Um, and I don't sell anything I make. I tend to teach how to do it and then
Mhm.
I do it as gifts, but did a lot of personalized items for Christmas this past
Yes.
year. Just to give out as gifts, and people really seem to enjoy that because you can take
Mhm.
not only their name, but just what do you like to do, and can I put that on
Yes.
an ornament for you? So just
Yeah.
being able to give those gifts felt really good.
Yes. I know. I made necklaces for all my nieces. I have
Oh,
eight nieces, one
oh,
nephew. And so I found cute pendants that had each like three charms. And
hmm
so one of them put their initial, and then again, like different icons for interest, like a basketball and a
hmm
phrase that described them. And I think that's so thoughtful, and it doesn't have to be expensive, but
yeah.
it's so if you can even turn that, create something like that to sell,
hmm
those are the things that I personally like to buy and shop for to give
hmm
others as gifts because it shows that you've thought about them, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So we talked a little bit about the things that you can make and sell and really understanding who your market is. Like, are you going to sell to businesses or customers, and what is that market looking for? We can working with wood is probably the easiest and least expensive, but we can do acrylic, there's metal engraving you can do depending
Hmm.
on the machine. There's just a lot of options that are out there. What would you suggest for somebody that is a crafter and they want to get into laser crafting? What would you suggest they start with?
That's a great question. The nice thing is when you buy these machines that they often, at least the ones we've received, come with sample packs of
hmm
materials.
hmm
And this is a great opportunity to try all the different things. Like
hmm
just to get a feel for how the machine works, testing out like the software. We haven't even talked about
Oh
that,
my
right? The
gosh, yeah.
software that you need to use for us because we were coming from Cricut, using Cricut Design Space. It kind of was intuitive to go into Xtool Creative Space, but
hmm
for some, it's not. So watching a few videos and just working through that process, then you get a little bit of confidence to see how beautiful things can turn out. And I know the
Yeah.
first time that I tried to do, I think it was the little aluminum, they have little aluminum business cards.
Yeah.
Like the wood worked, the acrylic worked, but I could not get this thing to work for the life of me. And so
Yeah.
it was very frustrating. I'm like, okay, I've never done that again. So
Yeah.
I think, yeah, it's just starting. The one thing that surprised me that I really enjoyed doing is they had a sample slate coaster. So
hmm
you could see how it engraves on stone. And we have tutorial now, like, because we did used to do a lot of painting rocks. And so now
hmm
we do the engravings. And that's another thing that locally people buy once, for
Yeah.
pets that have passed or family members that have passed.
hmm
They want to have something to remember them by. So
hmm
I don't know like to say this is what you should start with when
Yeah.
you go. I know we have some of our videos with our different machines take you through like 6 or 7 beginner projects just to
hmm
test all the different materials. But even things like cutting out on card stock. And so
hmm
Sonia, who's doing a lot of the product development and testing of her designs, was going through all this wood. I said, "Why are you cutting them on wood? Like, why don't you try some cardboard first and test on those just to kind of get the designs and the layout?" She's like, "Oh yeah, I
Yeah.
never thought of that." Right? So
It's a lot cheaper that way.
it's a lot cheaper, and you don't have to feel bad if something doesn't work.
Exactly. Yeah, so start with get that material pack that comes with your laser and,
Yeah.
figure out what you're comfortable with. Absolutely.
Exactly.
Do
And
you
think
have
about like just making them, and even if it fails, it's okay because it was free, right? Like,
exactly. I love that. Yeah. Do you have a machine you would recommend for somebody to start out with?
that's a great question. I think again, it depends on what you are wanting to use it for.
hmm
If it's for a business, I really like if that's what you're going into it thinking that you want to do. I think the investment in the P2 is
Mm-hmm.
well worth it. Like just being able to do the different things and the speed with which like it's become quickly our default machine
Yeah.
for cutting and engraving and all that.
Yeah.
If the budget is not quite there for the P2,
Mm-hmm.
and I wouldn't, I mean, I don't know. I haven't looked at the price. So there is quite a bit of a differential between the two, but something like the M1, a 10 watt at minimum, or the M1 Ultra, I believe comes in a 20 watt
Does,
version.
yeah.
So probably that one
Mm-hmm.
because it's that extra power, the 20 watt, that really makes a difference in
Yeah.
terms of cutting speed and capability. And then
Mm-hmm.
the Ultra has it's a bigger kind of bed
Mm-hmm.
to cut in. So if you want to do a little bit bigger projects. And then actually, I do really like how it integrates the blade cutting as well.
Yeah,
So the M1 has that capability, and then it's really easy to switch. It has a
it
printer
is.
function as well, which is kind of
Yeah. Yeah.
still trying to figure that out. And we've done
Yeah.
some ornaments with it, which is really fun, but
Mm-hmm.
I don't,
It's a neat capability, but it hasn't replaced my printer.
yes.
I really like the Ultra because you can start so basic and then you could
Yes.
add on the ink later or the pen later or the riser or the
Yeah.
rotary tool. There's just a lot of expansion. So
Yeah.
depending on your budget, but I'd have to agree with you too. The P2 is, I mean, it does everything,
Yeah.
right? Other than being able to pick it up and carry it to a
Yes.
craft fair, which you cannot do. You can do that with an F1, but the P2, if you have the budget and you know you're going to want to sell stuff,
Yeah.
like don't waste your time on the M1 and just go right into it. You're going to be so happy you did.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, I mean, you can always start with one and then try to sell it later and upgrade.
Mm-hmm.
And Xtool themselves, they do have kind of upgrade promos.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I just think for less stress and
Yeah. And space too, right? Not everybody has time for space for
yeah,
multiple lasers, right?
for sure.
Yeah. So really good suggestions here on kind of how to get started and not even technical advice, but just this idea of take that step, take that leap and do it, which is that advice that we need a lot is just to dive in, try something, see what sticks, and then go
Mhm.
from there. So I know that you on Sustain Your Craft Habit have a lot of videos. We've touched on a little bit of where people can start. So if they get a laser, how can they find you? Where can they find videos?
Yeah, of course. We are here on YouTube. We have our Sustain My Craft Habit YouTube channel, and we have a whole playlist for Xtool and laser engraving projects. We are over on sustainmycrafthabit.com on the blog. There's even more tutorials and free SVG files to use for laser crafting there. Um, we have a group called Laser Crafters Create over on
Oh.
Facebook. So that's another great place to ask questions and share your creations. And I'll be sure to share that link with you, Sarah, to
Hmm.
share with the audience. But yeah, just all those places you can find us, and it's a fun journey. Like I think we're like I said, I still feel like we're just at the tip of the iceberg for all the
Oh,
capabilities that we
yeah.
can and things that we can make, but it's becoming more and more convenient for people to own these machines and try to make a business or even just for personal use. Like, you know, I- just thinking about how many gifts you buy for people or
Yeah.
if you just like to decorate. I think that, yeah, it's just another tool in your crafting tool shed.
Yep.
I always feel like as, a crafter, when I think about all the machines that I have, like it's too decadent or too expensive. But then I think like my husband has a whole workshop of
Yep.
drills and saws and things that he uses a few times a year, and I
Yep.
use mine all the time. So like, I don't know why I should feel bad about
And you shouldn't. You shouldn't because even if it's, just a hobby and we're doing it just for fun, that's an outlet and that's so important to have. But then even just to be able to make a few gifts a year,
Yes.
it saves us money. But then if you can go out and sell and enjoy doing it,
Yeah.
get some fulfillment out of it and also make a little bit of money, It's a fantastic combination.
Exactly. Yeah. And if anybody has any more questions, we're happy to share
Mhm.
ideas and tips. So, again, on YouTube, on our blog, or on the Facebook group. So,
Fantastic. I'm going to link all of those down below. So if you want to learn more about laser crafting, cricut crafting, and all kinds of other crafts, you could check out Sustain Your Craft Habit. Links are down in the description. Jane, thank you so much for being here today. It was wonderful to talk with you.
oh, thank you, Sarah. You as well. This was so fun and a great way to start the day.
Absolutely. You have a great day.
Take care. Bye.